Who is going to inherit Takeoff's $28 million? So guys, if you didn't hear, on Halloween night, I believe last Monday, Takeoff, a member of the rap group the Migos, passed away. Very unfortunate due to, he was shot and killed. And you can name so many rappers that have died due to gun violence. He was there minding his business. Really, there was no reason. He was, minding his business there, and he got shot and killed. And that's so unfortunate. May his soul rest in peace. And I think an important conversation, especially around the Black community, and the rap, and as well as the music industry, is financial literacy, and is understanding what happens when, one passes away. What happens to all their wealth? Who is going to keep all of his wealth? So apparently he's survived by, well, he doesn't have any kids, and he doesn't have any significant other, anyone that they've named. He wasn't linked to anyone. So it's actually not really clear where this money is going to go. Now, very likely it will go to his mother, or, if he has siblings, it will be, split up amongst his immediate family, his nuclear family, since he hasn't created his own family just yet. But the problem that I think a lot of people are not aware of is the process, that it passes through your family. And this is what I wanted to talk about. In this video, I really want to break down some financial literacy concepts that just really help people to understand legacy planning, as well as how to, create generational wealth. So the first thing I want to point out is the fact that this money, right, if he doesn't have a trust, and the money, maybe let's say he has a will, or he doesn't even have a will, it's going to pass through this probate system where the government, the US government, sort of decides where the money is going to go. And the probate can last up to 24 months. And because of COVID and the backlog, it might take 3 years even to go through the probate system. But if one had a trust, you've heard the term trust fund baby. That term is made for a reason. So if one has a trust, the money then, so the thing about a trust is, like Rockefeller said, own nothing, control everything. And the idea with a trust is whatever assets, whatever entities are in that trust, you actually don't own, but you can control a trust. And the reason why rich people have trusts is because if, for example, somebody sues them, like you sue me for, like, maybe I run over someone, God forbid. Let's say you run over someone, God forbid. And all of a sudden you owe $1 million due to like medical bills and all that stuff. Well, the government can come after all your money, every bit of money that's under your name, your income, your houses, your assets. They can come after it so you can pay up. Now, but if everything you own is in a trust, that means you own nothing. And that means that who's going to pay? Well, I don't know. I don't own anything. So this is why rich people don't have things in their name. So they control trust, they don't own it. And so why this is important in this situation is that when somebody passes away, the money in the trust, there will be an instruction in the trust that says, let's say, for example, on this person's death, this trust is going to be passed on to be controlled by XYZ. And it's an instant thing. So when this happens, you can skip the probate process, you can skip all of that and have access to the money immediately. And obviously, whoever is the trustee, whoever owns that trust, will determine what the rules of the trust. So hopefully, because, the Migos have been popular for almost 10 years now, 9 years, hopefully they have, put through these, hopefully they've been financially literate, and hopefully they figured it out. And let's say unfortunately, this might just have to be the example that they get to see where this money goes, right? The rest of the members of the Migos. they might just have to see what happens with Takeoff's money to really understand, guys, we have to be serious. We have to be serious. So I wanted to play this video. It's in the podcast Earn Your Leisure, and it just goes into a little bit more details about trust, but he breaks down something interesting. So let's take it by here. Guys, you're gonna have to excuse, I'm outdoors, I'm traveling, I'm outdoors, and yeah, there's like some kids I think there's a school or something, so you can hear kids screaming and just being annoying. I don't really have an option right now, so you gotta make it how you can. So let me play this video. Oh, what's going on here? If you just give me a second. What's going on here? There we go. So it's from the podcast Earn Your Leisure. Great podcast. A lot of financial literacy. Now let's get into it.
To create a living trust, and I saw what it can do, that's when I knew I had a bigger narrative I needed to share with the people. So my thing was, I looked at who created a living trust to hand it down through their legacy, and I said, it's Rockefeller. So I went on to read the Rockefeller Trust from 1934, and also there's a book called What Would Rockefeller Do? So I stayed up reading all these things about how he would take this, put it in an account, and only give a portion to the legacy, and then have his children create a trust, and now that money compound interest, he wouldn't give it to them until they turn a certain age. And I'm like, I could do that. We can do that. The information was right there. So I sat down with my trust attorney. I said, I want to do that. Like, well, you want to do it, but I want to do that. It can be done. So we structured it, worked it out where, but unfortunately we all pass away. When I pass away, a percentage of my properties would be sold, not the ones that I hold long term. Like I have properties I do keep. My short term properties, those would be sold. That money would now go into a brokerage account. That brokerage account would be in the name of the trust. That money for that specific account would be for my grandchildren starting off, not my immediate family. My immediate family would get my life insurance policies, which are millions of dollars policies, and the main properties that I hold. So they're taken care of. But we need to start thinking about the grandkids, the great grandkids, those generations. How do you start their growth? You start their growth by putting that money in a brokerage account, and they don't get that money until they turn 21 years old. So let's use the example of $1 million. I put $1 million in a brokerage account for my grandkids. They don't get that till they turn 21, gaining 6% interest. 6% interest, let's say that's 21, so that money turns into about $3.8 million for my grandkids. My grandkids, they wouldn't get it all. They would get half, about 1.6. So I leave 1.6 in there for my great grandchildren for 21 years. That now turns into about 3, 4, 5, 6. That turns into about $6.7 million for my great grandchildren. They don't get it all, they get half. So now it's about 2.3 stays in for my great grandchildren. So they get about $8.1 million. You see how that happens? That's compound interest over 21 years. So we have to look at that number. But what makes the trigger and the explosion even bigger is the fact that what Rockefeller did is that was just his trust. What he did was now each child opened up a trust. So now his children had a trust. So he would pay his grandchildren and his children would pay them. That's twice. So now his children, then his grandchildren have a trust. So his great grandchildren would get paid 3 times. So now if we look at Rockefeller Trust paid out now 11 generations and counting continuously. And what he also did was have a life insurance policy on every person in the trust, creating his own bank. And now what does that do? This is my structure also. Any one of my children or grandchildren want to start a business, what do? Talk to the trustees. And now you borrow money. We become our own bank. So when someone dies, that money goes into the trust. You pay, when you get the policy, you pay it outright. So now that money is available in the trust. So now also what I did was I retweaked my trust last year, and it was 21 that I wouldn't give them money. I changed it. I changed it where they get money at 18 and they can have a business started at 11. You know why? Because now with technology, kids are now figuring out new ways to start a business. So
isn't that genius? So just imagine that, all this money in the rap community, all this money in the entertainment industry. And unfortunately, A lot of it is not kept. A lot of it is not passed on generationally. A lot of it is used to flex and, say, yo, I got all this money, I got all this whatever. And my thing is, we just have to change our mindset, start thinking smart, start thinking with intelligence, start using the information that's out there. That's why I've taken this opportunity to talk about Takeoff's death, to teach you about trusts. And more importantly, what was I going to say? This is an important one. Yeah, don't remember. But just take this information and learn from it. When it comes to a trust, it does cost about $6,000 or more, $12,000, depending on the lawyer. And a lot of times these guys will tell you not to do it. They'll make it seem like, oh no, go find the person that can do this. Yes, it costs $6,000. It's a lot of money. But when it comes down to it, like when you're building legacy, it's really not that money. It's a good investment. And make sure you fight, because a lot of times what I found with financial literacy is that the financial industries are esoteric, meaning that the language is very nuanced and very specific and only known by a small group of people. And they use that language to manipulate you. They use that difficult language to manipulate you, because people make money out of your ignorance. So they want fewer people in the world to be financially literate. So they use esoteric language. They create esoteric systems, right, to ensure that you're kept out of the money. Now, if you want the money, get the money. So don't take no for an answer from anyone. This information is out there. He listed some books. Go read the books. Go educate yourself on financial literacy and go forth. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. You're watching Brand Video Pro, and I'm your host, Kenim O. All right, I'll see you next time. Peace and stream.